G'day folks and welcome back. Thank you. Thanks for coming back. For those who watched the first episode and have jumped on to this, which is going to be a bit of a story about my earlier struggles with mental illness. Thank you. We've probably got to go back to, look, I don't really actually know how old I was. But I do know that I had some serious trouble with anxiety. A lot of it was anxiety around things that I have absolutely no control over, which, you know, for a lot of people, they don't necessarily have those struggles. A lot of people can just rationalise that out and just wash it off and everything's sweet. But for some of us, it's just not that easy. And I'm one of those people who, not so much now, but I used to really dive down the rabbit hole. I used to let these things really get hold of me. You know, it was affecting my relationships with mates at school, with my siblings, probably with my parents as well. And, you know, teenagers generally tend to push back against their parents and authority. I was definitely one of those kids who tested the boundaries well and truly. I'm not going to say a rough run through school. I definitely didn't enjoy school. I did get myself in a bit of trouble. Nothing too serious. Actually, there's a funny story about my last day of high school. I'm not sure if I should tell it here. No, we might save that for another one. It's probably more of a funny story, actually. Probably wasn't real funny for my brother and sister at the time, nor my parents, but hey, we can all laugh about it now. So, but anyway, I used to struggle really bad. I used to struggle a lot with thoughts around religion. Thoughts around death, thoughts around, you know, the so-called afterlife and whatever you might want to call it, God, whatever you know, however you want to frame that up. I used to struggle really bad with some of those real heavy thoughts, and I did actually see a counsellor back then to help me get through that stuff. But, you know, I was really having trouble sleeping at night time. I used to have a lot of trouble sleeping at night. I would sleep most days on the bus on the way to school because, I don't know, I guess I felt a little bit safer during the daytime, maybe, other kids around me and whatever else. But yeah, so that sort of made that time of life pretty tough there for a while. Anyway, I managed to get right through school. I can't really go too much further into it because it's a bit of a blur, to be honest. I just know that it was there, and I know that it felt hard at the time, and it's still a little bit difficult to think about. I don't know. I guess nowadays we're probably a little bit more aware of those issues within schools and things like that. That you know, they sort of pick up on things. Parents are a little bit more aware of what to look out for. I know Mum and Dad, you know, obviously knew what was happening, and that's how I did get in touch with the counselling and things like that. So they did what they could to did their best to help me through those times, and that counselling definitely did help to rationalise some of those thoughts and help me to process that sort of stuff, and that really did help. But you know, if you've got kids, and I am by no means a professional, this is just personal experience. So whatever I say in any of these episodes, please don't think I've got any professional training whatsoever, because I don't. It is just what I've been through, and in some cases what I've helped others to get through as well. So please, if you have concerns about your kids, go and talk to somebody about it. Don't take my word for it. So yes, just keep an eye on them, keep in touch with your kids, talk to your kids, just take the time to be with them and listen to whatever it might be. Sometimes it can be really tough to pick up on what's happening, and I know myself, I've got a 17 and a 13-year-old, and they struggle. There's things that come up in their life that they've got to struggle with, and I think it's important to keep in touch with them and help them to process that sort of stuff, and just keep an eye on that. It's okay to be a little bit upset about something and a bit aggro or whatever, but it shouldn't be wearing on for weeks and weeks at a time. They're kids; they've got the whole life ahead of them. They should be able to flush those thoughts out and move on with their life. So keep in touch with the kids, talk to them, and if you've got a story to share, don't be afraid to share it with them. I guess you've got to be a little bit aware of, I guess sharing stuff that, I don't know, is there something that you could share that makes it worse? Maybe there is. Maybe there is some things that probably should be kept, shelter your kids from. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a professional. I am a parent, and I do my best, and I hope I'm doing a good job. But I believe I do have a pretty good relationship with my boys, and I'm very proud of them and what they do, and I'm always trying to be mindful of, just a change in mood that might drag on for a little while and things like that, to try and just help them through and let them know that it's okay. You can struggle, you can feel a bit shitty, but that you will come out the other side of it. It's going to be okay. So getting on past the high school years, I started off an apprenticeship pretty much straight out of school as an apprentice plumber. And through those years, I pretty much just put my nose to the grindstone and just worked my guts out. I worked for, my first boss, we worked damn hard. We had to travel a fair bit to get into work, and we done long hours for little pay, I would say, back then. A lot of overtime that was unpaid, but, I had a good bloke, Rob, that I work with, and we get on really well, and we had a bit of fun in between as well. Even though we worked our asses off, we still made the best of it, I suppose, and I think that's pretty important in life, to try and make the best of those situations that might arise. And so that's sort of the history of where all that started from, and how long it's been under my skin, I suppose. I don't know how you describe it, but it's been there for a long time, and I don't know if I was able to flush it out a little bit earlier, I may not have ended up in the shitty situation that I did. But I don't know, I guess you can't go back. There's a saying, it happened. How does it go? Something about it's supposed to happen that way. It's supposed to happen that way because it did, basically. What happened. It was supposed to happen. Why? Because it did. So there we are. Here I am. After all that sort of stuff. I guess from there on, I got into working for myself back in, when was that? That'd be 17 years ago now, because I remember Lyndon being pregnant with our first son, Dylan, when I went out working for myself. As you do, when there's pressure on, you make these big choices, I suppose. Probably, I don't regret it, but I do understand it. It was probably a interesting timing to do something like that. But I was a leading hand, a foreman at my previous job, and I was under a fair bit of pressure on a job there, and I don't know, I guess I was up for a change. I was living actually in Western Sydney during this time. I actually lived in a little town by the name of Warragamba, which is where the big dam is, where Sydney's drinking water starts from. Warragamba Dam. We actually lived in one of the old workers' cottages from back in the day when they were actually building the dam and making a village out of it out there. Just an old fibro place from 500 square metres. So, it was a start for us. That's where my wife and I started our married life together. Was in that little place up there in Sydney, and after working up there, and when I grew up, I was pretty lucky. We grew up on 25 acres, and we were surrounded by farming country, so we're always on bikes and paddock bashes, and we had a rifle under one arm, and off we'd go, and I might be able to disappear the entire day. We'd go and walk those paddocks. Things were probably a little bit different back then, where you're allowed to do those things, and people just got on a little bit more and probably communicated a little bit better, and those that own those properties probably hadn't been stung by people leaving gates open or damaging fences or leaving rubbish or whatever it might be these days that tends to put a lot of farmers off letting blokes on to shoot on properties. But we had pretty free run, and I'd bugger off for the whole day and you wouldn't see me until the sun was setting. So I had it pretty lucky. And when my kids were born and I started thinking about their future, I wanted to try and give my kids the same amazing childhood as what I had that my parents worked bloody hard for and provided for me. So that was really important for me, and so that was the reason why we moved. I actually moved to Cootamundra. Before we moved, I actually started working down here. I bought a place and it had a shed on it. I built a flat inside that shed. I was working here and working there, employed by myself. Up in Western Sydney, there up in Warragamba, and started picking up some work down here as well. And that was a busy time. That was a bloody hard slog because it's about 4-hour drive between the two, and I'd be working all week up there, and then I'd come down here for a so-called weekend and work my guts out here, building up the little flat that we ended up moving into, and working on jobs to actually make money as well. So I don't know even how we got to that part of the story, but I guess that is the track of where I started from and how I've had that anxiety since I was a young fella, and I guess we're moving into now how it basically grew on me, how it got its claws into me, I guess, and that's what it's going to be on the next episode. I'm going to give you a break there again, guys. I'm going to have a breather myself, and then we'll move into when it all came to the crunch, when it all just about fell apart for me. So once again, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.